guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and I have already filmed this video in its entirety, but when I watched the footage back it was trash, so I'm redoing it. Today's case is actually nuts. It's so crazy that I have to put my hair up for this. Normally we do serial killers and we talk about a specific person and their crime career. This is a little different. We are looking at a cold case back from 2006. Now, with most cold cases, the problem that we run into is that there's just not enough evidence. That is the exact opposite with this case. There's so much evidence, but none of it leads anywhere. And every time they find a new piece of evidence, it adds 100 more questions to the table. So if you like unsolved murders, if you like sex, drugs, and S&M style polyamorous relationships, then keep watching because you are gonna totally love today's video. August 2nd, 2006, Washington, D.C. police receive a 911 call from 1509 Swan Street. The caller is completely hysterical, saying that someone in the home has been stabbed and he is afraid that there's still an intruder in the home. Paramedics arrive to find an extremely unusual scene, and things only get weirder from there.
DC Emergency 911 Operator 6752. Do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
Immediately. We need an ambulance.
What's wrong, ma'am?
We had someone that was in our house, evidently, and they stabbed somebody.
Okay, somebody's inside the house now?
I don't know. We heard.
Are they bleeding? You see someone bleeding?
Someone is bleeding in our house.
Okay, where's they bleeding from?
I think in the stomach.
In the stomach? Is he cautious? Calm down for me. I'm going to send some help, okay? Female or male?
It's a male. He's a friend of ours. He was spending the night with us.
Okay, and who was the person that stabbed him? Do you know? Is he conscious?
We need an ambulance.
Ma'am, listen to me.
He's not conscious.
He's not conscious at all?
No. We need someone right now.
Is he breathing? Listen to me. Calm down. I'm going to help you, okay? Is he breathing?
I'm upstairs, and he's downstairs. I don't know.
Okay, who's downstairs with him?
My partner is downstairs with him right now. He told me to go upstairs and call the police immediately. I just went to the stairs.
Okay, who's the person? Okay, I'm sending paramedics and the police. Okay, who's the person that stabbed him?
I don't know. We think it's somebody with an intruder in the house. We heard the chime at the door.
And it's 15, ma'am, calm down. 1509 Swan Street, Northwest. Am I correct?
Yes, it is.
The person that stabbed him, is he still in the home?
I don't know.
We got help en route, okay?
Pardon me?
We have help en route.
Thank you. They're here.
They are en route to you now. I'm sending the police and the paramedics, okay, to assist. Okay, what I need you to do is go downstairs, okay? The place wherever he was stabbed at, I need you to get a dry cloth, okay, and just apply pressure to that area. If he was wherever he was stabbed at on his body, I need you to take a towel downstairs while you're waiting for the paramedics to arrive and just apply pressure. Even if the rag or towel is saturated with blood, just get another towel and put it on top, but never lift the first towel off the area. Hold it on. Once it gets filled up with blood, just put another towel on top of that and just apply pressure until the paramedics arrive. Yes.
On the leg.
Yeah.
We're stabbed in the heart.
In the heart?
Yes. In the center of his chest.
Okay. Is he breathing?
Is he breathing?
We have help en route now, okay? You don't know who it was?
No idea. So don't touch this.
Okay, is he breathing?
He's breathing, but we need help now.
Okay, we have help en route, ma'am, okay? We do have help en route. Okay, just go down there and try to tell your husband or your the other half to just try to keep him calm and talk to him, okay? Keep them calm and talk to them until someone gets there.
Okay.
And at the same time, get a dry cloth and just hold it right there in the area.
My partner's holding the
Okay.
holding it on him.
Okay, and once it gets saturated with blood, tell them get another one. Go get another towel so you can apply it on top of that one once it gets filled up with blood. And we need you to apply pressure on that area.
He is applying pressure right now.
Okay, just hold it there until the paramedics get there. They should be pulling up any moment if they're already en route to your location. You don't know who did this.
We have no idea who did this.
Is the door open so they can get in?
We don't know how they got in.
Okay, well, I'm asking you now, is the door open so the paramedics can get in once they get here?
What? Sorry. What were you saying?
Is the door open so they can get in? Is the door open so the paramedics can get in the home?
I'm going to go down.
Is this a private home or apartment?
It's a home.
It's a home. That's 1509 Swan Street, Northwest.
The person had one of our knives.
The person that stabbed him ran out the door with a knife?
I think.
Okay, anybody get any type of description of the person that came in the
I
home?
have no idea. We have no description. We heard the chime, and we heard the scream from our friends.
Okay.
And so we came running downstairs. We ran in.
So you both was upstairs and your friend was downstairs?
Yes.
You heard the door open and then you heard the scream?
I didn't hear the door open until after the scream, and then we ran down the stairs and we heard we have an alarm, and so the chime went off.
Okay.
Is the ambulance? We really need the ambulance.
Okay, they en route now, ma'am. Go to the door. They should be pulling up any moment. Okay.
I'm afraid to go downstairs.
Okay. The person who's downstairs was the person that was assaulted.
No, we're on the second floor.
Okay, so somebody need to go downstairs and open the door for the paramedics. You're not sure if that person's still in the home or
I
not.
have no idea.
Okay, we have paramedics en route, okay?
What time is it?
What time is it at the moment?
Yes.
23:54. It's 11:54, ma'am.
54.
Yes.
I mean,
I'll stay on the line with you. I will stay on the line until somebody gets here, okay? I won't hang up.
we need them right now. I'm not hanging up, but we need help now.
Okay, they en route, ma'am. They are en route. Let me know when you hear the paramedics. Can you look out the window and see if you hear them coming?
I'm looking out the window, and I see nothing. I see nobody.
Okay, it seems like forever, but they are en route, ma'am. They're coming.
Here they are. Here they are.
They're there?
I'm going downstairs.
Okay. I'll stay on the line with you till you open the door for the paramedics, okay?
Help us. We have someone was stabbed. They're on our second floor.
Ma'am?
No, it's really an emergency. I mean, he maybe... Please hurry.
Ma'am, it's going to be okay.
This is the unsolved murder of Robert Wone. So there are four main people that we are going to be talking about in this case. We've got Robert Wone, the victim, and then the three people who are involved with this. We have Joseph Price, we have Victor Zaborsky, we have Dylan Ward. Robert Wone is a 32-year-old lawyer who lives in Virginia with his wife, Kathy. He had met Kathy in college, they fell in love, and they got married. So in August of 2006, Robert Wone decides that he is going to attend a continued learning course in DC after work. Now, because of the long commute that he has to take to get back and forth from home, he decides that he is going to stay in DC that night with a friend, attend his course, and then come home the next day after work. His wife agrees, and they kind of set it all into motion. Robert first called a female friend asking if he could stay there, and she declined. After her, he called Joseph Price, asking if he could stay with Joseph Price and his little family. I think I forgot to mention that all three men are in a relationship together. Ward and Price are in a S&M style relationship together, and then Zaborsky and Price are in a sexual kind of committed relationship, and they call themselves the throuple, a play on the word couple and three, throuple. It's kind of cute, I guess. Anyway, Robert decides that he is going to stay there. Price says that's totally fine, come on over. And at 10:24 p.m. on the evening of August 2nd, 2006, Robert calls Price from his desk, and they have a few-minute conversation, assumingly saying, I'm on my way. Now, it's an 8-minute drive from Robert's work to Price's home. Now, the absolute earliest time that Robert would have been able to arrive would have been 10:32, and Zaborsky, who had gone to bed after dinner, said that Wone did in fact arrive between 10:30 and 10:40. Now, Ward and Price stayed up. They shared some small talk. They gave Robert a glass of water. They agreed that they would catch up in the morning, and everybody went their separate ways, went to bed. Now, Price had requested that everybody close their doors because it was a really hot night and he was trying to make sure that the air conditioning was working at full power, so he asked everyone to close their doors. According to Price, everyone went upstairs to go to bed at around 11 o'clock. Price and Zaborsky finished Project Runway together. Ward took a sleeping pill and started reading his book, and Robert took a shower. Price says that him and Zaborsky turned off the TV between 11:05 and 11:10, and between 11:05 and 11:07, Robert drafted 2 emails on his BlackBerry. One to his wife saying that he had arrived and he would call her in the morning, and another to a coworker confirming lunch for the following day. Neither of those emails were ever actually sent, and the BlackBerry was never fingerprinted. The police gave the phone back to Radio Free Asia because apparently it was like a work phone, and they completely wiped the phone and the hard drive. Now, these homes are like townhomes where, you know, there's a house, and they all share a common wall. Between 11 and 11:35, the neighbors were watching the evening news, and at some point during the news, they heard a panicked scream from next door. Price and Zaborsky claimed that they were awoken by their door chime. They have like a security system on their doors that it goes beep beep every time it opens. Now, they have a roommate, a female roommate who lives in the basement, and they thought she had come home because she had said that she was going to be out for the evening and she was not going to be home that night. They thought maybe she had just come home early for whatever reason, so they didn't think anything of it. At 11:49, Zaborsky calls 911. He is crying, he is hysterical. He says that he thinks there's an intruder in the house, a house guest has been stabbed, he's terrified, and they need to send an ambulance right away. Dispatch operator tells him that an ambulance is on the way and that he needs to apply pressure to the stab wounds to keep him from bleeding out. Zaborsky says that there's blood everywhere and that they are in fact applying pressure. At 11:54, paramedics Baker and Weaver arrive, and they are greeted by Zaborsky at the door. Zaborsky is still hysterical, and he indicates that someone has been stabbed upstairs. They're upstairs. They head up the stairs, and they are greeted about halfway up by Ward. They ask Ward, where are we going? Where's this victim? And Ward doesn't even say anything. He wordlessly points down the hall to the spare bedroom, and then goes into his room and closed the door. Immediately, paramedic Baker is uncomfortable. Something is not right. Both men appeared to be freshly washed. They were in white, clean bathrobes, and the whole vibe in the room was wrong for someone to have been stabbed in the other room. He goes into the spare bedroom and finds Price sitting on the bed in his underwear with his back to the door, not applying pressure, not even touching the victim. Wone is laying on a fold-out bed. He is kind of at a little bit of an angle. The bed is made underneath of him. There is no blood. His head is resting gently on the pillow. The pillow is fluffed, indicating that he hasn't been laying in the bed. There wasn't a fight or a struggle. He was delicately placed upon the pillow. He is wearing like basketball shorts and an old college t-shirt, and he has his mouth guard in. I guess he was a grinder. Paramedic Baker asks Price, what's going on? Price says, I heard a scream. He stands up and moves to the other side of the bed, out of the paramedic's way. Baker is so unnerved by his attitude, him just sitting there staring at this stabbing victim, that the hairs on the back of his neck stand up, and he actually goes to the other side of the bed so that he can keep an eye on Price, and specifically his hands, to make sure that he doesn't still have a knife in it while he works on Robert. Paramedic Baker finds 3 stab wounds in the chest area. He notices that there are slits in the victim's t-shirt that line up with those stab wounds, and there is no blood. Like, none. There's a slight film of blood over the victim's chest that indicates that blood has been wiped away, but there's no blood on the bed. There's no blood on the shirt. I'm going to post a picture here of the bed that this stab victim with 3 large stab wounds in his chest was laying on when paramedics arrived. Where's the blood? Also, both of those blood spots were from the paramedics moving Robert onto the stretcher. So those weren't even there when he was laying there. Paramedic Baker told police that all 3 men looked freshly washed when he arrived. Price told police on first disclosure that they found Robert at the bottom of the stairs heading out towards the backyard. They carried him upstairs and placed him on the bed. That's actually the last time we hear that story. It's actually never repeated or brought up again. All of Wone's personal items were still in the room. Wone carried 2 wallets filled with cash. One was his real wallet and one was a dummy wallet because he was actually really afraid of being mugged. Those were both sitting on the night table. There was a damp towel draped across the back of a chair, and there was a knife that had blood on it sitting on the bedside table. This is the towel that they claim they were using to apply pressure to the stab wounds. Okay. August 3rd, just after midnight, detectives descend on 1509 Swan Street to start their investigation. They find many high-end electronics in between the front door and Wone's room that were completely untouched. Wone's wallet was there with all of the cash still in it, so clearly robbery wasn't the motive here. Police bring cadaver dogs, and the cadaver dogs hit on blood in 2 different places. They hit on blood at a drain at the back stairwell and in the lint trap in the dryer. Tell me that doesn't sound like something was washed off and then dried off. The hose was uncoiled like it had recently been used, and the top of the drain, the lid of the drain, had been lifted up slightly, indicating that it had been taken off and hastily put back. They also brought in 2 drug dogs, which hit on drugs in 2 separate places, but the only drugs that they were able to find on scene were ecstasy. In Ward's room, they found a cornucopia of sex toys, all bondage, S&M. They found books on pain play, which isn't weird. Like, if you're into bondage, like, that's cool. That's not the weird part. The part to take note of is they had an Aerostech electronic stimulation toy, which I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up, which unfortunately all of those videos are on Pornhub. But basically it is an electronic probe that is inserted into the anus, and then something is wrapped around the penis itself, and it stimulates the prostate to cause an ejaculation. That is something to remember for later in this case. So in Ward's room was a roll of cutlery knives that his mother had given him when he graduated culinary arts school. There was a knife missing from this roll. That's also important to remember for later. Price and Zaborsky said that they had been awakened at first by the chime of the door. They didn't think anything of it, but they were concerned when they heard 3 kind of mumble groans from downstairs. This is when Zaborsky got up and went downstairs to investigate, and they found Robert stabbed in the bedroom with the knife laying on his chest, even though just yesterday you told us that you found the body at the bottom of the stairs leading out to the back of the house. It's already starting to change. Zaborsky sees Robert all stabbed up on the bed, and he screams, which draws Price and Ward out of their rooms. Price tells Zaborsky to go upstairs and call 911, which he does, and then Zaborsky says that he moved the knife off of Robert's chest onto the nightstand, which is why you might find my fingerprints on that knife. Police would later not find any fingerprints on that knife. Also, that knife is super important because that knife is bullshit. After being directed to by the 911 operator, Price says that he applied direct pressure with this towel to the 3 stab wounds in Robert's chest. I'm just going to keep showing you this towel and the bed and the knife because it is the most ridiculous story ever. Ward begins to speak and Price gives him a dirty glare and he immediately stops talking. Of course, all of the detectives saw this happen and they immediately separate all 3 men and start interrogating them. Price was described as being arrogant, unconcerned, aggressive, self-centered, just an asshole. Zaborsky, while initially was completely hysterical and in tears, very quickly became unmotivated and stopped helping altogether. And Ward was completely distant and unattached. Now the thing is that all 3 men had exactly the same story. There was no deviating detail. They knew exactly the same thing. And up until today, their story has never changed or wavered in any way, no matter how long they were separated or interrogated. Police use the technique where they say, well, your friends have already turned on you, so you're going to jail unless you tell us something. It didn't work. They never have changed their story. They believe an intruder is responsible for everything. At 11:25 a.m. on August 3rd, Wone is pronounced dead at the hospital. Paramedics said that even at the house, there was 0 signs of life, but they weren't able to legally declare him dead until they got to the hospital. So the autopsy is where things start to get super weird. So there are 3 stab wounds, we know that. The weird thing is that all 3 stab wounds are exactly the same. They are the same depth, they are the same angle, everything is the same. One punctures the heart, one punctures the right lung, and one is in the abdomen puncturing the small intestine. Now the reason that this is weird is because if someone is stabbing you, are you just gonna lay there motionless and let them do it? No. I initially thought, well, he probably died. That explains a lot. That explains why there's no blood, because if his heart has already stopped, there's not gonna be any blood. And if he's dead, he's not gonna move around. No, that was wrong of me because he was alive for at least 60 seconds after the first stabbing. And we know this because his abdomen had filled up with blood. So for 60 seconds, he was alive, bleeding to death, and not moving at all. Now, there was no fibers in any of the stab wounds, indicating that he was not stabbed through the shirt. There was no fibers from his shirt on the knife they found on the bedside table, indicating that that knife didn't stab through that shirt. And the stab wounds were maximum, all 3 of them were maximum 5 inches deep. The knife on the bedside table had blood wiped up to 5.5 inches up the blade. And there was no blood on the cutting end of the blade. So obviously, that knife was not used to make those stab wounds. You know what matches those stab wounds? The missing knife from Dylan Ward's cutlery set. But his mom said that when she gave him that gift for graduating culinary school, she kept that knife for some reason. And she was able to produce it later on. She said, here it is, here's the knife. See, no blood on it, nothing. But like, how easy is it to go and just buy another knife? Like, I could do that. That's easy. I think it's awfully convenient that she just happened to keep the knife that matches the stab wounds exactly. Also, he had some petechial hemorrhaging in his eyes, which indicate that his airway had been cut off and he was struggling to breathe, which makes sense if his lung had been punctured and he wasn't able to breathe. It also makes sense if he had been smothered. There were also several puncture wounds, like from a needle, all over his body. They were on his arms, they were on his ankles, they were on his neck, they were everywhere. Now, 3 of these were because of paramedics. Paramedic Weaver had tried and failed to get 2 different sticks, one on each arm, and then Baker had tried to get IV access through his neck, also failed on that too. The rest of them, there's no answer for where they came from. His wife said that he had no doctor's appointments that would have, no doctor's appointments at all, let alone one that would require him to get some sort of injection or shot, and he was absolutely not a drug addict. So they came from the killer. And I think this is the strangest detail. This is the one where I heard it and I was just like, I can't with this case. Like, it made my brain short circuit. Robert Wone was a very heterosexual man. He loved his wife. He was very much not gay, although clearly he didn't care because he was best friends with gay men. He was part of LGBTQ advocacy groups. However, in this house full of gay men, they found Robert Wone, his genital areas covered in semen. There was semen in his penis, indicating that he had ejaculated. There was semen on his anus and inside his anus. Now, you would think that he had a homosexual tryst with someone in the house. Well, you would be wrong, because all of the semen, even the semen inside of him, was his. How the fuck do you get semen, your own semen, inside of you? I have a theory. Remember that Aerostick? I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. Remember the electronic sex toy? Now that electronic sex toy has a probe that is inserted into the anus. Now if Robert had that probe inserted and then he ejaculated and somehow it was moving around, maybe it kind of like forced some semen up in there, or when they were pulling it out, some of it kind of just dripped in. Now that's my theory on how it got into him. They did a toxicology workup on Robert and found no narcotics or drugs in his system. But that doesn't really mean that much, because they have to know exactly what they're testing for. So they tested for all the normal stuff, but unless they know what they're looking for, they can't just blindly look. So there could have been a drug in his system that they just weren't looking for. Some sort of paralytic, maybe, something that paralyzed his entire body so that this probe could be set on him, he could be stabbed to death and smothered, and then, you know. Now, do you remember the knife on the bedside table? The one that has blood too far up the blade, no blood on the cutting end of the blade, and there was no like drips of blood. It was all kind of smeared in, and it had fibers from that white towel. Well, the towel, this one that they said they used to apply pressure, experts say the pattern on that towel is more consistent with having wiped blood onto the knife, not applying pressure. If your lung and heart and small intestine is punctured, the amount of blood that would be coming out of your body would be unreal. There would be blood absolutely everywhere on everyone, right? Now, all three men were wearing white and were clean, freshly showered. This towel was not used to apply pressure, because this white towel would be dripping and red. It would not be this clean. There would be more blood on this bed. So he did not die on that bed. That is impossible. After being released from custody, Zaborsky and Price get a ride from a friend of theirs, Scott, where he tells Scott that he actually pulled the knife out of Robert. Why didn't he tell police that? Why did he tell police that the knife was resting on Robert's chest and he moved it to the bedside table? He also said at some point telling police that they probably won't find any evidence because a killer would have worn gloves. That's a super weird detail to offer up for no reason. Why, Price? Is that what you did? After they are released, all three men decline participating any further with the investigation. They lawyer up. They do offer up blood, hair, and DNA samples, but they no longer answer questions. Now, them getting a lawyer isn't a bad thing. If you are ever in trouble for any reason, you don't say one word to police. They say you have the right to remain silent, and you say I'm going to use that right, and you don't say anything until a lawyer is there, because they can and will twist your words around, and you can get in trouble for stuff that you didn't even do. Lawyer up. At 7 a.m. after getting home from the hospital, Kathy calls a former co-worker and roommate of Robert's, Jason Torinsky, and tells him that Robert has been stabbed to death, and also asked him to let some of their other friends know what had happened. On August 5th, DC police interview Kathy, and she asks Jason to sit in with her as counsel. August 7th, Jason confirms with an ethics committee, and it is deemed inappropriate for him to be involved in this case because he's too close to the family, and the case is passed off to another attorney. In October of 2008, Ward is charged with obstruction of justice. Prosecutors alleged that Robert had been sedated, he had been sexually assaulted, smothered, and then stabbed to death. They do not believe the intruder theory. They believe that that is completely impossible for that to have happened. They also don't think that the knife in the room was the knife used in the stabbing. Prosecutors hope that Ward will change his story after being arrested and charged. They also contact Price and Zaborsky through their lawyers and say, if you don't cooperate, we're going to arrest you. They do not change their story. And in November Price and Zaborsky are also charged with obstruction of justice, as well as both men are taken into civil court by Kathy, and she files a $20 million wrongful death lawsuit against the three men. In June of 2010, a judge finds all three men not guilty of obstruction of justice or tampering with evidence. The judge doesn't believe the intruder theory, and he thinks that the three men know something or know everything about what happened to Robert Wone that night. But there's not enough to charge any one man guilty without a reasonable doubt based on the evidence available. In August of 2011, the civil suit settles for an undisclosed amount. And that's where this case goes cold. There's been no other suspects. There's been no new evidence. Whoever did this got off completely scot-free. All three men are still involved with each other, and they think they live somewhere in Florida together. But this is where it went cold. It just sort of stopped. It's sad. What do I think happened? I think that Price and Zaborsky were upstairs watching Project One Runway. Ward got some sort of wild hair up his ass. Who knows why he did it? I think that he injected Robert with some sort of paralytic, maybe ketamine, something like that. Sexually assaulted him with that weird probe toy. Then either smothered him or stabbed him. I don't know which one he would have done first. Possibly stabbed him and saw that he was starting to struggle because he had nicked his lung, and used a pillow or his hands to smother his face. Price and Zaborsky heard the commotion, came downstairs, helped him clean everything up, helped him clean the body up, helped him wash all of the clothes off outside by the drain with the hose, put it in the dryer to dry it. That's why the dabber dogs hid on blood in the lint trap. Then put Robert back, and that's when they started to concoct their story. They had someone scream so the neighbors would hear it and be able to pinpoint it, and then called 911. Price is a lawyer. Like, he would know what and how to set the scene to make it look bad. But who knows? Maybe no one will ever know, because it's all kind of over now, you know? So, someone got away with it. Or maybe 3 people got away with it. Alright guys, let me know in the comments below what you think happened. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Remember that none of us are saints, and that you are awesome, and I love you, and I hope you have just the best day ever. Bye, guys.